In this video, we're going to be talking about the Add Stones function here inside EasyStone. Now, Add Stones has several different options. We can click on the button, we can right-click on the button, we can hold the Shift key and click on the button, we can hold the Alt key and click on the button. And every time we do those things, it performs a different task. Now, you may say, well, that sounds really confusing. Why on earth would you have one button with 4 options? Well, first of all, we wanted a nice streamlined interface, and once you get used to these different functions and the options, you'll find it very, very simple to remember and very simple to use. And you'll probably really appreciate the way we have this set up. When we created EasyStone, we did so with ourselves in mind first and foremost. So you're going to see a lot of these different functions have different options, and because we use EasyStone every single day, it just becomes second nature to you. We are going to have a cheat sheet that you can download and print off to understand all the different key combinations with some of the different functions that have different options. For example, our simulate function, we can click on the button, or we can shift click on the button, or we can right click on the button. The shift and right click option is the same on simulate. The shift and right click option is the same on add stones. Not every function has these alternate options, but we're going to cover each function separately in each separate video, so you have a good understanding of what each of these functions do. Now, before we look at the different options here with add stones, I do want to point something out that's really exciting for version 3. Again, I'm a bit of a power user with EasyStone because I use it every day to create rhinestone designs, but one of the new things here in version 3 are the quick pick tools. Now, these will dramatically increase your productivity. Imagine, for example, we're over here on the selections tab. We've selected some shapes here that we want to add stones to. Well, in order to add stones, I'd have to switch back to the stone tab to click on that button. But because now we have the quick pick tools, I can be on any tab and run that function without actually switching that to that tab and clicking on the button that runs that function. So really important from a productivity standpoint. The one thing I do want to point out, though, with the quick pick tools, the EasyStone form does have to be open to use any quick pick tool. So the form has to be open, but we don't have to be on the associated tab and click on the button. We can just use a keyboard shortcut. So let's go ahead and take a look at the quick picks. And in here you'll see add stones with the Alt key, and add stones with the Shift key. Now, the reason you don't see add stones with right, meaning the right click option, because the add stones Shift and add stones right run the same function. So with that said, let's go ahead and assign a keyboard shortcut to add stones. So we're going to just right click and choose assign keyboard shortcut. Up will come a dialog box. I'm going to use Alt A for add stones. You can see it's not currently assigned to anything, and any Alt option by default, you'll be safe. None of the default shortcut keys in CorelDRAW begin with the Alt key. So pretty much all of my shortcut keys for EasyStone will begin with an Alt key. So in this case, Alt A, we'll go ahead and click on Assign, and you can see it says Current Shortcut Keys has been assigned. We could actually create more than one shortcut key if we wanted to. Why you would ever want to do that, I really don't know, but it is actually an option. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Let's go ahead and draw out a shape. Now, we already have a stone color, we have a stone size, we have a stone spacing, so let's just hit Alt A, and it will obviously add stones to that selected shape. I could create several shapes, select all of those shapes, and hit Alt A, and add stones to all those shapes at one shot. Okay? Now, what we can do also is we can create a shape, we can add stones to that shape, we can then come in here and modify the shape in some way, and then if we click on an existing stone and hit Alt A again, it will recalculate the stones and add them back to the shape appropriately. We can also change our stone color Now notice now I just changed the stone color. I have a shape selected. If I hit Alt A, nothing happens. And the reason nothing happens is because Easy Stone is selected. So what I need to do is I need to click inside CorelDRAW. If I click inside CorelDRAW, however, I lose what I had selected. So in this scenario where you're switching from Easy Stone to CorelDRAW and you have something already selected, click up here in the title bar. That will change the focus from Easy Stone to CorelDRAW, and then our keyboard shortcuts will work. Alt A, and you can see now it just changed the stone color of all of those stones. The other thing that we can do is we can change our stone size. So we'll switch from 6s to 16s. Back on the title bar, Alt A, and now you can see that the stones have increased in size and have been readjusted. We can also click on an existing stone and come back to the stone tab, and notice we have the plus minus. So we can decrease the number of stones that are added by default. We can increase the number of stones that are added by default. So you have those two options as well. Now we could also get kind of silly and we could say I want exactly 10 stones. So when I click add stones, then it would just give us exactly 10 stones along that shape. Let's go ahead and delete that, and let's go ahead and draw out a shape. So we're going to draw out a rectangle here and add stones to it. Now in this particular example, you can see that when we drew out the rectangle, the corners actually look nice and sharp. There's a stone at every corner, but that's not always going to be the case. Depends on the shape that we're adding stones to. Let's try it again. So in this shape, you can see right here at the corner, it's not perfect. It's only perfect at one corner. So there is an option in Easy Stone. Let's go ahead and select those clear stones. There is an option here where we can choose to detect corners. Now when I click on add stones, now you can see we get an exact perfect stone at every corner. I personally don't like to use the detect corner option and leave it on. So what I did was I built in another option, and that is to select our shape. If we hold down the Alt key and click on add stones, that has the exact same effect as detect corners does. Now, yes, I want to confuse you. No, I actually just want to show you another option. Some of you are just going to be basic Easy Stone users, and some of you are going to want this additional control. So let's go back to geometry class and know that what angle are these corners of the rectangle? They're a 90-degree angle. So I just want to show you another option. You'll never use it. 99% of you will never use it, but it is interesting that it does exist. Over here in the editing tab next to break at nodes, we have these two fields, and this is the minimum and maximum angle for break at nodes and also the detect corner function. So let me just show you what this will do. If I enter 30 and 60, what we're telling Easy Stone is don't consider a corner with an angle that's less than 30 or more than 60. So in this case, these corners are 90. So if we come back over here to our stone tab and click add stones with detect corners checked, notice it didn't detect that corner. And that's because we specifically told it, don't do that. So because this angle is 90 and we told it don't consider anything over 60, it didn't consider it. Believe it or not, that option can be a handy option. Like I say, most of you will never use that option, but it does exist if you have a desire for it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and delete that. So we've looked at adding stones. We've looked at what the options are. If we hold down the Alt key, we know that has the same effect as detect corners. We've looked at adding and subtracting stones. We've looked at specifying an exact number of stones. And we click on add stones and it would add those exact number of stones to our object. The other option that we have is the shift key in add stones. So I'm going to use drop stone to drop a couple of stones here. Hit the escape key to exit out of drop stones. And let's take a look at what shift add stones does. If you've looked at any of our project videos, you're going to see this next function used all the time. It's really quite handy. So if I select three objects, hold down my shift key and click on add stones, wait, we have a problem. please select two objects. So the shift add stones only works when we have two stones selected. So we'll select this one, and then shift add stones. And you can see what happens here is between those two stones that we had selected, it will automatically calculate the number of stones that will fit in between based on our stone size and the spacing we have specified. But it also does something else that's interesting, is these stones are also applied to a path. You can see that path there. If we double click on it, we can adjust our path. Just click and drag. If I click up here at this control node, I grab this control handle here, I can actually control my path and all the stones flow along that path. So that can actually be quite useful. And likewise, if I select these two stones and right click on add stones, it has the same effect as shift clicking and adding stones. You can see it adds those stones in a perfect line, and of course we have our path that we can then manipulate. So you'll be using the right-click shift option here and of add stones all the time. Once we show you some more practical applications in our project videos of where that would come in handy. So that's really all there is to adding stones. Lots of different options there. Remember, we have the right-click, shift-click. Those two do the same thing. And then we have the alt-click, which will detect corners. We can turn detect corners on all the time. We can add to or subtract from. So I select an existing stone here, and then I can add stones along the path, subtract stones along the path, or I could tell, you know what, just give me 4 stones. And you can see we only have 4 stones along the path. Those are the various options, and thanks for watching.